Welcome back, folks. I'm Wayne Douglas, and it's nice to have you with us for Accent. My next guest on the program is a barista trainer. Well, for those of you who don't know what a barista is, they are a qualified coffee maker. And if you're anything like me, a bit of a latte freak, you like to know that someone is doing it properly. And that's part of your job. Nadine Rathgeber, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You do it as a business. In fact, we can see it on your blouse there, on your shirt. Ask me for coffee, with the 4 being 4.
Yep.
Okay, what a great way to run a business in the sense of a novel name. But if I want to know how to make a proper coffee, or in the way of a latte or a mochaccino or an espresso or whatever, that's exactly what you do.
Absolutely.
How did you get into it, and I guess why?
About 6 years ago, I was trained by Lavazza in London, and they sort of started my passion for it, getting introduced to the science behind it, the history, heritage of coffee, and that got me pretty much hooked. And it's now my passion and my poison.
Nice combination there. The cafe culture has really taken off globally. Why do you think that is, though?
Obviously, New Zealanders started travelling, sort of starting in the 1980s, doing their OE, realised that when they came back to New Zealand, we haven't got it, because obviously Europe was already right into its
well and truly
coffee culture, and they started basically bringing it here. Yeah.
Now, I know the barista side of things is very competitive too. We have different competitions, and you've done well yourself, or some of your people have.
Yes.
And training people up to be a barista, what you called it a moment ago, you called it the science of coffee. I guess it is now. There's more to making a latte or an espresso than meets the eye.
Absolutely. A lot of people are not aware of all the little factors that will have a huge effect on the flavour
of the
actual
things?
coffee. Your grind size, the actual the time the coffee shot is running.
Yes.
If it's too short, it'll be sour tasting. If it's too long, it'll turn bitter and burnt. Whether you use the equipment properly, if the equipment is hot enough, so many different things.
The machine's got to be cleaned regularly and all those
absolutely.
things.
Yeah.
Now, what you do, your courses, as part of your job, as barista training person, they are NZQA accredited. It's all been done correctly through the government criteria, I guess. Was that quite a difficult process to do that?
Luckily, no. I've got big help there with the school that sort of offers it. So they help me to running it, which is fantastic. So
what you do is, I guess, am I right in saying it's a combination? People can come to you, whether they be cafe people or someone like myself who's got an espresso machine at home and wants to make, a good coffee generally. People will come to you, but you also go to them. You go to cafes or you go to people's homes. A little bit about what you do.
I basically, you ring me up, you have just upgraded your home machine perhaps, not quite sure how to use it properly. I'll come round and I'll explain every single thing properly, how to look after it, how to texture milk properly, and go through the actual different recipes. Or people just want to open up their cafes. I get that quite often, and they have not any knowledge or training in barista skills, but before they obviously venture into it, they like to know things about it. So they'll do a 3-hour private session with me at my training ground.
And you're fully equipped and everything?
Yeah. Or cafes call me up and say, my staff need training, so they're all on the same page. They all consistently deliver the same quality cup of coffee, so I'll go there and...
Sounds great.
Anything.
Well, yeah, absolutely. The other side of things too, in terms of where people are at with the cafe culture, is that as it's gradually caught on and is still catching on, people are getting fussy. They know what they like in the way of a good coffee. Am I right?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Yes and no. We're on the way there. Unfortunately, because a lot of people are not aware of what actually takes to make a fantastic cup of coffee, some customers or consumers are getting a bit like, "Oh, I've been waiting 5 minutes. Where's my cup of coffee?" Perhaps not being aware that you do need to put a bit of it does take a little bit of time to prepare a quality cup of coffee. And for me, if I wait 10 minutes, but I get a fantastic cup of coffee that, follows through with the look, with the taste, then it's well worth the 10 minutes.
A lot of people are aware of the basics of making a good coffee and using a proper espresso machine. But what sort of feedback have you had through your business of people that said, I've been doing this for so long and I've been doing it the wrong way, you've turned it around and you've broken the cycle, broken bad habits? Is that part of what happens?
Absolutely, but there's a lot of unknownness, a lot of little things that are very, very important that haven't been passed on. which can break a cup of coffee. So you just don't know what you're doing wrong. You're just continuously trying to figure out what you're doing wrong. And someone actually needs to tell you, and that's me.
Yeah, that's you, yeah, hopefully. Yeah, now that your company, as we said before, is Ask Me for Coffee. So when they come to you, do you, I guess, find out where they're at first? What's the process?
I generally, if it's staff training, for instance, at the cafe, I'll go in and I'll just address the whole group and just ask whether they know how long the actual extraction time might be.
Because they'll all be at different levels too,
yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
And that gives you a good idea of what is the knowledge base. Is it quite high? Is it sort of medium, or am I beginner level? And that's where I don't start off with my actual training. I start with the basics, or I go straight away, okay, so if you do this, let's move on from there.
So a lot of it would have to be, by nature, have to be hands-on training.
Everything.
Yeah.
But that's the fun part of it.
What are some of the myths, what are some of the misunderstandings or misconceptions in the marketplace about making a good coffee, do you think?
First of all, one big misconception is that a lot of people think that espresso is very strong in caffeine. It's actually not. So if you drink filter coffee or plunger coffee, the caffeine content is much, much higher.
Is that right? Wow.
So
I've learned something already.
Should you go out for dinner and you feel like a cup of coffee after your dinner, then please have an espresso, not a filter coffee, because I guarantee you won't be able to sleep.
Yeah, you'll be awake all night.
Yeah, because caffeine is soluble, so it washes out when in contact with water. And obviously, if you make an espresso, the contact time with water is only between 25 to 30 seconds. Whilst if you make plunger coffee, the coffee grind is actually sitting in the water and continuously letting out some caffeine.
Now you're I can tell a slight accent there, you're European
I am.
by birth,
Yes.
etc. And I think Germany, am I correct?
Correct.
How far behind are we as New Zealanders behind Europe in making a good coffee? Or are we behind?
I wouldn't say behind. It's very different. Our coffee culture in Europe is very, very different to the coffee culture that has sort of developed in New Zealand. Here in New Zealand, it's pretty much all espresso based. In Europe, we still drink a lot of filter or plunger based coffees and recipes, that kind of way. So there's a bit of misconception there as well, that people are always trying to say, oh, we're behind, or we're ahead. We're actually very different.
All at different levels.
Yeah, we're actually very different.
Well, it's been great having you on the show. Don't forget, it's Ask, and you've got a website.
I have,
right?
indeed. Yeah.
It's called Ask Me for Coffee, all in the one word, .co.nz. Is that right?
That's my email address. The website is barista-training.co.nz.
Well, there it is. Great. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you.